Every book written about the First World War tells you the same thing. War is a waste, war is horror, war breaks men. Ernst Jünger had a bit of a different take, and he was there. He fought on the Western Front for 4 years. He was wounded 14 times, shot, shelled, gassed, yet he kept volunteering for the most dangerous assignments. Stormtroops raids into enemy trenches at 3 in the morning, night patrols through no man's land, the kind of missions other men prayed they'd be passed over for. He wasn't passed over, he volunteered, and he survived all of it, becoming one of the most decorated soldiers in the German military through the First World War. Yet he was 23 years old when it all happened. There's no grief in it, no disillusionment, no plea for the reader to understand what a waste it all was. He describes artillery barrages and bayonet charges the way other men describe sunsets, with precision and beauty and a sort of terrible joy that never fully leaves the page. There's no politics, no agenda, no one telling you how to feel about it, just a man in the mud trying to stay alive and telling you exactly what it was like. That's what makes this book one of the most honest books ever written about the World War. The book is called Storm of Steel by Ernst Jünger. And Ernst was a soldier in the First World War. It starts in 1917. And he talks about his time in the trenches. And what makes this book so unique is that it was written during the war. And what I mean by that is that it's not written as a reflection. So it's not like the war happens, he survives, reflects on it, writes a memoir. It's his diary. And in that sense, it's real time, it's raw. And you don't get a lot of reflection throughout the book. It's just essentially telling you what happens in trench warfare. And then it was found and written into this sort of memoir style and has become over the years one of the more famous books written about the war because of the style that it was written. In that sense, it reminds me of another book that I read recently called A Woman in Berlin, where she's talking about, at that time, a different war, but it's just what's happening in real time. So this all takes place during World War I, which that war started with a bullet, essentially. Back in June 28th of 1914, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist named Gavrilo Princip shoots Archduke Ferdinand. He's the heir to the Austrian-Hungary throne, and his wife Sophie in an open car. There had already been one assassination attempt that morning. Princip, thinking the day was over, stopped into a deli, and when he came back out, the Archduke's car happened to took a wrong turn directly in front of him. He fired twice, both of them died within the hour. And then within 6 weeks, the world is at war because every major power in Europe had spent decades signing mutual defense treaties that said, if someone attacks you, we attack them. It sort of seemed like a deterrent, but it was more of a fuse. So Austria blames Serbia, Russia mobilizes, Germany backs Austria, France backs Russia, Germany invades Belgium, and Britain declares war. 6 weeks, one person's dead, every major power in Europe is involved now. So both sides dug into the earth and stayed there. The Western Front, a scar running from Belgium to Switzerland, roughly 450 miles long, on either side there were trenches, and men lived in them for weeks at a time. Mud, rats, lice, standing water, the smell of the dead, between them a no man's land. Barbed wire, shell craters, bodies. This is where this story takes place for Ernst Jünger and where he spent 4 years. The weapons being used had never existed at this scale before. You had poison gas rolled across no man's land in these yellow-green clouds, chlorine, phosgene, it's that mustard gas that we've all heard of by now. Artillery accounted for roughly 60% of all casualties. The shelling was so relentless it drove men into a condition they called shell shock, what we now call PTSD. Tanks, aircrafts, flamethrowers, subs, every form of killing is when this all became industrialized into World War I. The outcome, 17 million people died, 10 million soldiers, 7 million civilians. You have France, Germany, Russia, Britain, Austria-Hungary, entire generations of young men gone. By 1918, it's over. Germany's last offensive failed. And on November 11th, the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns go silent. What followed ended up being worse, right? The Treaty of Versailles held Germany solely responsible. So you get reparations, this gutted military, economic collapse, and it pushed people to the brink in Germany. And that was sort of the precipice for the rise of Hitler many years later on. And so it's almost in a way the First World War didn't end. It created this pause and this fury that for a group of people allowed a rise to power for someone like Hitler. So, for me, I really like this book and I enjoyed it because it's the way it's written. There's kind of pros and cons to that. I'll start with the cons. You don't get a lot of reflection. It's not him talking about lessons learned in battle, which is something I do enjoy. I like hearing soldiers talk about it because it's such a real, honest thing. At the same time, it's essential reading if you want to truly understand history. And this is something that I found growing up, and I believe this to still be true today. You don't get these true stories in school. You don't get the true, it's always jaded information or biased information. If you're in whatever country, I'm in the United States, we get a United States tilt to it. These guys, when they're in war, guys like him, none of that matters to them. It's about surviving the day. It's about helping your people, the man next to you. And that's what this book talks about. I mean, he's literally just in the trenches trying to survive. And it's a different time. If back then it was, hey, charge out, try to capture the next trench, and if you get shot, we'll patch up, send you back out, right? I mean, he was shot, I think 14 times, or basically 14 wounds, and continues to go back out. If that happened today, that just wouldn't be the case. I mean, it's such a huge deal when a soldier gets shot today, and that's a good thing, right? This is a very positive change 100 years later. But that's why I think books like this are so important. It's a reminder of where we've come from and where we've been as cultures and as societies, of how things used to be. We're in a war with Iran right now, and despite how bad and ridiculous it is, it's nothing compared to this 17 million people. And that's why I think books like this are so critical and so important. He gets really personal in the sense of he takes you into the trenches with him. There's one quote that I did want to read here that it just, to me, kind of summed up the book really well. He's talking about how they were, because these guys are in trenches and they constantly, there's just barrages hitting them. Like, it's you run, there's someone, you're with 10 people, you're sprinting to a trench, 6 of them get killed, the 4 keep going. And that's the way it always is. It's just like, it's a numbers game in the sense of, hey, if we go out with 20 and we come back with 8, hey, we've still got 8. Obviously very sad. But when these guys think about it, he says, it was perversely this circumstance that gave me a feeling of security, because I did at least partly subscribe to the old warrior's superstition that the safest place to be is in a new crater. And what he means by that is that as a warrior in their thinking, it's, hey, the best place to hide is where someone just shot artillery shells, because they're not going to shoot there again. Now, obviously, this isn't true in that sense, but it just gives you the idea of the frame of mind of what these guys were going through back then. I mean, think about what that would be like as a person, that's your life for 4 years. You're just living one trench at a time, one crater at a time, just literally trying to survive. And I don't know, for me, I think it's such an important book. It's such a reminder of what real problems are. I think a lot of us today have no idea and don't remember. I mean, especially younger people today totally forget this generation and what people like this had to go through. I'm not German. I'm in the United States, so I don't have a rooting interest in this particular person. This is a German soldier, so I would imagine that it's probably even just as important to people in Germany to remember their history. But I just think it's important for everyone to read and remember these kinds of stories. So really enjoyed this one. It's raw, it's honest. You're getting the real take because it's written throughout the war. It's just a different period of time. So that for me is Storm of Steel by Ernst Jünger. Hope I'm pronouncing that one right. It's the classic memoir of World War I combat. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the comments.